And today is Africa Industrialization Day 2023, and the theme this year is accelerating Africa's industrialization through the empowerment of African women in processing for an integrated market. The theme focuses on the critical role of women-led enterprises in driving Africa's industrialization through processing and value addition, as well as the integration of African markets under the Africa Continental Free Trade Area. Joining us now to discuss is Comrade Issa Aremu, Director General of the Michael Imudu National Institute for Labor Studies. Joining me via Zoom. Great to have you on the show. Good morning, sir. And happy International Men's Day.
Yeah, same to you and to all our viewers through you.
Thank you so much.
It's a special day we should celebrate because it's a day that has been set aside by United Nations, specifically United Nations Industrial Development Organization, UNIDO, which is the arm of UN. It's to draw awareness to the need for beneficiation, for value addition for the entire African continent, because for now, sadly, our capacity to manufacture is still very, very low. In fact, manufacturing contributes less than 10% of our total GDP in the continent, compared to other countries in which the global average is about 35%. So the idea is that we devote today to discuss about the need to add value to our raw materials. Instead of exporting crude oil, we need to refine products. Instead of exporting limestones, we need to turn them to cement. Just exactly the way we have seen, some African industrializers like Aliko Dangote, the Boa Group, already adding value. I mean, today we are self-sufficient in cement production, not only that we're exporting. And as you said, the theme for this year is to draw attention to the plight of the women in processing sector.
Right.
So what I'm saying is that I think it's an important day that we need to celebrate. And for us at the Labour Institute, our mandate is to promote labor education. This is one of the commemorative dates that we celebrate, precisely based on the knowledge that sustainable jobs, decent work, only come through industry. And you also know United Nations Sustainable Development Goal, singular goal 9, strictly to draw attention to the need for innovations for industry. So I want to say that we are really in a commemorative mood. And I hope all Africans are doing that.
Quite interesting. And what would you say is that a snag in the wheel of Africa's, plans to industrialize? So far we've had, different governments, bring out their development plans, and they all talk about industrialization, boosting industrialization in Africa. What do you think is holding Africa back?
Yeah, precisely. I mean, very good question. I mean, we are not short of rhetorics. I mean, don't forget that it was the 25th session of the Assembly of the African Head of State that adopted this resolution in 1989. So we are talking of effectively 35 years of celebration of Africa Industrialization Day. And as you said, we had Vision 2060 of African Union. Many countries have also come out with development plans. I think Nigeria is currently running national development plan from 2021 to 2025. We also benchmark some targets on how to promote industrialization, but there's a gap between rhetoric and reality. All we need to do is that we need to address the fundamentals. We cannot industrialize without electrification. Energy is the key. You can't run industries, based on generators, electric power supply. So we need to address that very well. Of course, we also need sustainable industrial policies. If you give incentives to investors, you have to make sure you are consistent, stable. We also need micro economic stability. I mean, fluctuation in exchange rates. It's not so much that the rates goes up high, but it's stable so that industrialists can plan, as the case may be. Then we also need to start our investment charity from home. I mean, I'm quite excited that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has done a lot of, including the one he's currently doing, global tour to call for foreign direct investment. But as good as this is noble, I think we also have to relate to domestic investment, because we're ready for our investments here. They're under stress of energy insecurity, low purchasing power, and I think that's very, very important. The only way for you to drive industrialization, you should have citizens that can buy products that are being produced. And they can only do so if they have the purchasing power, effective demand. So there's a link between good pay for the working people and industrialization. It's good economics to pay your workers very well so that they can buy the goods. Otherwise, they will buy second-hand goods, which we just fuel imports of dubious goods. So all we need to do is to refocus, and there are opportunities for that, as many as possible. I mean, I've been following the debate going on over the issue of, Prado for big cars for the legislators. And it's also good economics, if you ask me. Let's assemble those products at home. Why can't we have Toyota Nigeria, BMW Nigeria, luxury goods, yes, then there will be luxury industry, employ workers to work,
right,
as the case may be. So the good news is that, as I've said, there are private investors in Nigeria who have done very well. I mean, look at the big investment of Aliko Dangote, talking of 650,000, capacity refineries coming on board, employing, direct jobs of almost over 10,000 workers, indirect jobs of 100,000, and of course, with huge turnover, potential turnover of billions of dollars. I think this is the way to go. We have to add value, beneficiate. Oil and gas, they are not cost. They can't be cost for us. What we need to do is to diversify. There are a lot of derivatives in this sector, and this is what we should do. And this is what Nigeria used to do in the 70s and 80s, when we were one of the promising, highly industrializing countries in Africa, even ahead of Malaysia, in India, but now they have left us behind. But I'm happy that with the Renew Hope agenda of the president, I think economic growth and development, by implication, industrialization is one of the 8-point agenda.
Right.
And all we need to do is drive this together.
And talking about being left behind at this time, we've had a pandemic, a recession, the war in Ukraine, and now there's the Israel-Hamas conflict. And some African countries are heavily indebted, at this time. Is there a risk that time is running out for Africa to industrialize?
No, time cannot run out for us. In fact, this is the best time, because we have all the privilege to skip, the stages of industrialization. We have arrived at the right time. We have technology. The world is talking of Industry 4.0. So we don't need to go to Industry 2.0. We don't need to go through the crude first industrialization, driven by labor-intensive, precarious jobs. Now we have what it takes to really beneficiate very well. And to do so means that we just have to refocus ourselves. Industry generates just about $700 of total GDP per capita in Africa, compared to Latin America, about $2,500, of GDP per capita. Of course, Southeast Asia is about $5,000. So all we need to do is to refocus. And the way to do so, if you ask me, we must return to development planning. I mean, Saudi just assembled African leaders now. Saudi African Summit, China did its own, and Russia also did before. But those countries are engaging with us based on their development plan. Saudi is talking of 2030 development plan. Where is our plan? Of course, we have it on paper. We should also engage the world with that. And the solution will be, let's beneficiate. We have to strengthen the Ministry of Industry, very, very important, and innovation. We have to have sustainable industrial policies. We have to strengthen institutions like Bank of Industries. In the case of Nigeria, I'm talking of, so that financing will not be a problem, so that manufacturers can source resources at cheaper rates that will impact on the cost of production in a way so that we can be competitive. And luckily, we have arrived at the right time, where we just launched a huge African continental trade agreement. I think you refer to that. We're talking of 3 trillion, dollar market. I mean, that's China plus. So all we need to do is to make sure we don't recycle imported goods. We should import substitute. Whether you do import substitution or export-led industrialization, industry is industry. Add value, beneficiate, have sustainable jobs. Decent job. Decent job can only come from industry. Not this informalization, platform works in which we have glorified slaves who do not acquire skills. You have to make sure that we do so, and that requires all the stakeholders to work together. I'm also happy Nigeria is ambitious. I have President Bola Ahmed Tinubu talking of the vision of a $1 trillion budget, in $1 trillion budget in 2 years' time. But what we need to ask is that what should drive that? What should drive it should not be export of crude oil, export of gas. What should drive them is export of manufactured goods produced in Nigeria, made in Africa. That's what other countries are doing. Made in India, made in Brazil. Anytime they engage with us is to make sure we buy their products. What we need to also look inward, and that requires our conversation. Politics should be around production, about beneficiation, about how to add value. And luckily, Nigeria has the industrial capacity. We used to have industrial estates, Ilupeju there in Lagos. The entire Ikeja was designed as an industrial estate. It wasn't meant to be seat of governance. You have Transamadi in Port Harcourt, you have Bompai industrial estate in Kano, you have Nasarawa, Kakuri that used to host huge textile industries. But most of them have gone under now due to inconsistent policy, energy crisis, smuggling of products that are produced locally. So I think what we need to do is to take advantage of the new African Continental Trade Agreement. Africa has just arrived at the right time. Those who were ahead of before, they left us behind. So we can't be, we have no reason for complacency. And that's why today is very critical to raise awareness. And I want to thank channels for raising the scale of the conversation. We can't be lamenting. We need to organize instead of agonizing to get our people out of poverty. And the key out of poverty is beneficiation, value addition, production, industrialization.
Yeah, so that hopefully the industrial areas can go back, to the industries and producers and not be, overrun by businesses and sometimes, churches taking all of those spaces.
We have turned industrial parks to, better entertainment centers, to houses of worship. No.
Yeah, that's change.
The key to worship is to work.
Right.
Working is act of worship. Beneficiation is an act of worship. So we need to change the narratives of the continent, from expecting miracles to working. Only God help those who help themselves. And we can only be helped if we do what other countries are doing to make sure that we turn these huge, abundant natural resources, agricultural products, process them, add value. And as the theme this year goes, this place to employ women in particular, who constitute more than half of the population of the continent. I mean, the African population, we are talking of 2 billion in the next 2 years. How do we feed them? That itself is not a liability, it's an asset, because they will eat, they will consume energy, they will buy cement to produce, they will buy the sugar, they will buy milk. And this is why the entire value chains of good job that Dangote Group is doing is extremely commendable. Today, that group is changing the narrative of the continent. We are talking about $25 billion investment. That's almost half of the budget proposed for Nigeria for next year.
So we definitely hope more companies come in.
Can do that.
Yeah, we hope more companies also join the likes of Dangote in this development.
You have the black groups, you have many other who are really struggling. And that's why I said our investment charities should start at home. Our president, our minister should meet with all these producers, look at their concern. Because in any case, foreign investors will consult them before they come. So if they are doing fine, that will be good attraction. But if they have challenges, then they may have second thoughts, which will not be in the best interest of 250 million, country, especially Nigeria. If Nigeria doesn't industrialize, Africa simply can move. We are the home of investment.
All right.
Where we have potential for purchasing power, we have the resources, We also have the heritage, what I can call legacy industrial projects. I've talked about those parks. You can't get them in any African countries. Ilupeju, Trans-Amadi, all we need to do is to return back to the board through sustainable development plan.
Well said, Comrade Issa Aremu. Thank you so much for coming on the show. DG Michael Imodu, National Institute for Labor Studies. Thank you for sharing your Monday with us.
It's a pleasure. Thank you so much. Happy AID.
Happy AID. All right, still to come. We'll look at closing the infrastructure gap in Nigeria. That's our next conversation. Let's look at what other technologies are out there to close this gap. Do stay with us.